Good morning, Professor Chris Tang, and friends in North and South America, and good afternoon, friends in Europe, and also good evening, friends in Asia, and very late evening in Australia. So welcome to the inaugural seminar of the System Analytics Global Leaders Seminars. So today is our great honor to have Professor Chris Tang to give the first seminar of this series. It's also our great honor to have our Dean of Faculty of Engineering, Professor Chris Chow, to give the welcoming speech. May I now invite Professor Chris Chow to welcome the audience.
All right, thank you, Yong Hang, Professor Christopher Tan, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are. This is Christopher Chow from the Faculty of Engineering, University of Hong Kong. It is my great pleasure today to welcome you all virtually to the inaugural seminar of the Systems Analytics Global Leaders Seminar Series, organized by our Department of Industrial and Manufacturing Systems Engineering at Hong Kong U. This year, it is difficult to organize face-to-face seminars because of COVID-19. Nevertheless, the academia is acting fast. We are now getting familiar with the virtual meeting. The topics of the seminar series cover a broad range of application domains, such as construction, finance, healthcare, logistics, and transportation, manufacturing, and supply chain. These topics are all in line with one of the three research pillars of the department, system analytics. We have recently established a research lab and launched a new major in the engineering science program on this theme. Finally, may I take this opportunity to thank the organizing committee and the International Advisory Committee. I wish for the great success of the seminar series. Stay healthy and strong. Thank you very much and enjoy the talk.
Thank you very much, Professor Chow. So may I first introduce myself? I am Yong Hong Kuo, so from the Department of Industrial and Manufacturing System Engineering, the University of Hong Kong, so one of the organizing committees. So for this seminar, so our objective is to connect academics and also practitioners all over the world. So in the domain of industrial and system engineering and management science and also engineering, covering a lot of domains such as construction, finance, healthcare, logistics, transportation, manufacturing, supply chain, to exchange ideas without physical boundary. Because yeah, you know, now it's hard to travel. So we will invite distinguished speakers to give seminars and then to share ideas with our participants. To also nurture the younger generation of the researchers. May I take this opportunity to introduce our organizing committee, Peng Chu Chan. So yeah, and Yao Chen, yeah, and Junwei. I think he just finished a class. Okay, thank you. Junwei Wang, Fanny Zhang, and Ray Zhong. Thanks for the thank you for the very hard efforts to organize this seminar. So I would also like to take this opportunity to kind of do some promotion of the upcoming seminars. So we have also other distinguished speakers. For example, Professor Stephen Wiener from Technical University of Munich. Also IJP, Editor-in-Chief of IJPE, Professor Li Hui Wang, Professor and Chair of Sustainable Manufacturing, KTH Royal Institute of Technology, Professor Alexander Dogu from IMT, Atlantic, also Editor-in-Chief of IJPE. Professor Li Hui Wang is also Editor-in-Chief of International Journal of Manufacturing Research, Editor-in-Chief of Robotics and Computer Integrated Manufacturing, Editor-in-Chief of Journal of Manufacturing System. And also we have Professor Miroslav Slimnitsky from University of Maryland. So he is editor-in-chief of Automation in Construction. So about the format of these seminar series, so we'll invite speakers to give the seminar. And then I understand that, so all of you may have many, many questions for the speakers. So what we can do is, so we can type the questions in the Q&A function on Zoom. And then the speakers will look at the questions and then to answer the question. For example, in the seminar, Professor Tang, so he'll give the seminar, and then so you may type the questions, and then at the end, or during the seminar, and then if Professor Tang want to clarify some questions, so he will also do this. And then in the Q&A, so he will first answer some clarifying questions, and then after that, he may answer some in-depth questions. But you know, we have time constraints, so we will try our best to accommodate all questions. Okay, so now may I invite Professor, I wish to introduce Professor Tang, the first speaker of our seminar. Professor Christopher Tang is a University Distinguished Professor and the holder of Edward Carter Chair in Business Administration at UCLA Anderson School of Management. Known as a world-renowned thought leader in global supply chain management, Professor Tang consults with numerous global companies, including Amazon, HP, IBM, Nestle, GKN, Accenture, and taught courses at Stanford, UC Berkeley, HKUST, NUS, MIT, Saragossa, London Business School. Professor Tang has published 6 books, 30 book chapters, over 100 online blogs, and over 160 research articles in various leading journals, and written articles for Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, Barron's, Fortune, LA Times. He was elected as Lifetime Fellow by Informs, POMS, and AMSOM. He received his Bachelor of Science degree with first-class honors in mathematics from King's College, London, MA in Statistics, MPhil in Administrative Science, and PhD in Management Science from Yale University. So I know many of you know the very outstanding achievements, academic achievements made by Professor Tang. Through my personal interaction, I must say Professor Tang is a very, very caring, very humble, very passionate scholar. So he doesn't just write papers, so he also is very concerned about a lot of social issues. So as you can see, so he's published quite many very impactful papers on this issue. He also wrote articles in news papers and press. He is also very caring for old people and also young people and also the society. So this is our great honor to learn from Professor Tang. So may I now invite Professor Tang to give the seminar. Please join me welcoming Professor Tang.
Thank you so much, Yonghong. I'm really honored, and it's a privilege to speak at this wonderful seminar organized by the Hong Kong University. So before I start, let me thank Dean Chow for the introduction about this wonderful seminar series. Given this difficult time that we're facing, it's remarkable for the university to organize a seminar such that people from around the world can still be connected despite the COVID-19. I think it's a wonderful development. So I want to thank the organizing committee and to organize this Systems Analytics Global Leaders Seminar. I was thinking that I don't think I'm qualified to be a leader, but I think that the participants and all of you are the leaders, because despite the time zone, despite the inconvenience, you're still participating. And also on this note, I want to thank the organizing committee and also in terms of Professor Huang for really supporting this initiative. I think it's wonderful. And last, and also want to thank Hong Kong University for hosting this wonderful seminar series. And I look forward to the future speakers as well. So So let me share the screen with you. Let me know if I hope that I know how to do that.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. Okay, so I hope you can see it. So basically, that's Johan was very kind to ask me to talk a little bit, just to spend a few minutes to talk about the journal. So so I want to give this just a overview about MSOM, the journal, for a few minutes. So okay, so who am I? So I think Johan gave a wonderful wonderful introduction, and I think that there's nothing more I can add, except that want to add that I was a former dean of the National University Singapore Business School, and actually started various programs, and I'm very proud of the development of the university. So let me just say a few words about the journal. The MSOM journal was founded in 1999, and I am the fifth editor. And the initial focus of MSOM was obviously based on the name of the journal. We focus on the manufacturing and service operations. But then over the years, when I had the privilege to serve since 2015, I decided to expand the scope. Just like what Dean Chow and Professor Huang were trying to do. And I think that the system departments is also expanding from manufacturing to transportation to big data analytics and all these things. So I think it is wonderful because with our training background, we can explore more research topics. So in terms of methodology, basically the journal is still focused on analytical work because that is a bread and butter. But on top of that, now that we're also doing more empirical work because data is more available, and I think we should explore that because, and finally, we also do experimental work as well. So basically, I view that different research methods, they are not substitutes. They complement each other because analytical work can serve as foundation for us to establish hypotheses, to do testing, and also do experiments. And also for experimental work and empirical work can also motivate us to justify some of the assumptions because for the analytical work. So I view that all three research methods, they are complementary to each other. So in terms of scope, we actually now, the journal cover not just the traditional operations issues, we cover healthcare, sustainability, which is very important, in particular in China, and social responsibility. So in terms of ethical issues, food safety issues, online platforms, smart city operations, now we'll also explore into fintech. And also that last is the latest trend is the diversity and gender equality issues. Now, in terms of number of submissions, I've been very grateful that to receive the support from the community. So the number of submission has been increasing. And I think that this year we should break the 600 submissions record. It's not a big number by and large, but on the other hand, it's, our journal has the tradition being tough. When I started, it was only 8% acceptance. So a lot of people, they are afraid to submit. So now that we have increased the acceptance rate to 13%, which is still tough, but I think that is more reasonable. And we are also on par with operations research and management science. So that is a submission. In terms of impact and visibility, we're delighted that in terms of the number of downloads, it grown exponentially, and also that the impact factor also growing quite nicely. So right now, this year, based on the data from 2019, we are actually, we're actually we're the highest impact factor among all informed journals. So I think that is because of the support from the community. So I hope that we'll continue this trend. And last but not least, I want to highlight in terms of some of the highlights of the journal and the initiatives. So since we were on UT Dallas list and then Financial Times list in 2017, and then because of the increase of submissions, we've increased the number of issues from 4 quarterly to bi-monthly starting this year. And also we're delighted to receive the 4-star ranking in Australia and New Zealand last year. And also this year, just a couple months ago, we received the A ranking by the Federation of Management Society of China. Then in terms of pushing the boundaries, as I mentioned that I want to push the new boundaries of operations. So that's why that we have special issues. So we have a few special issues. Right now we have the fintech issues related to operations. So that would be like how you can use blockchain to operationalize smart contracts. So that kind of issues. So the co-edited by Dan Iancu from INSEAD and Alex Yang, and he is with London Business School. And also that we have a special issue on socially responsible research. So this is related to, in terms of, as Yong Hong pointed out, this is related to issues about the people who are poor, gender equity issues, racism, that kind of issues in operations. Actually, in operation, we can study this kind of issues too. For example, it has been proven that Airbnb discriminates non-white people. I think that we should explore this so that the community can create awareness. Once we create awareness, that will also lead to change. So I think this is really an exciting area. There are also, for the last few years, I have worked with, been very privileged to work with different companies in China to have them to share data with us such that our community can conduct data-driven research. So this year in 2020, we are doing the data competition using data from JD.com. Is about 30,000 SKUs over the sales and also the entire logistics from end to end, from the merchants all the way to the customer's home for 2 months data. And is a helper with Get Along and Mass Chang. Get Along is from Wharton School. Then the next one, we also have practice-based competition is chaired by Jeremy Gallion from the London Business School. And also that later on this year, we're going to announce, we're going to do the data competition based on the data from Haier, Sun. It's basically that is the logistics arms. So this one is also very exciting because we have the data, not just from the sales side. We also data on the delivery and also installation and repair data. So in that case, we can actually capture the logistics as well as the repair, maintenance, after sales service as well. So I think this is also related to the smart logistics, smart transportation. So maybe the systems departments should also look into this data set as well. All the data is available to the public as well, because I believe in sharing. All right, so I think this is all I had to say about the journal. In view of time, I'm going to switch gear to talk about a paper, all right? So I'm going to switch gear. So actually, I also learned from the young people how to do the QR code so that you can scan and get the paper. This is, I learned from all my Chinese friends. All right, so today I'm going to talk a little bit about a paper that I found it quite interesting. Is about meal delivery platform. Now, this is not my work, it's a joint work. So basically that I would say that I learned from the young people. So basically this is joint work with Wendy Mao. She is an alum of Hong Kong U. She graduated from the Faculty of Business Administration last year, and she's now on the faculty of Tongji in Shanghai. And Liu Ming is now located at Chinese University Hong Kong in Shenzhen campus. And also the Rong Ying and Zheng Huan, they are both at the Shanghai Jiao Tong University. So basically it's a teamwork, and actually this is the piece of work that is truly collaborates is a collaboration of different people who bring in different skills. Because in this paper, you see, we take in terms of empirical skills as well as analytical skills, and we combine them together. So, but whether it will work, whether the community like it or not, I don't know, but at least we can try, all right? So then the question is why do we study new delivery platforms, all right? So let me give you a preview about online platforms, and then I hone into the meal delivery platforms, because platform is very important, all right? All right, so I started my journey in 2014, I think, when Uber and Didi, they were fighting in China and whatnot. So I studied different platforms because I was curious. So basically, you look at platforms, is actually, if you look at the startups, most of the startups, most of the successful ones are platforms. The question is why, right? So I'll come back to that. So if you look at, in terms of Uber, Didi, Airbnb, WeWork, there are some problems, and Lufax and Meituan. Most of all these successful startups, they're all platforms, all right? So then the question, how come these platforms are so successful? What are they, and how come they become more successful? We use them all the time, but I think that let's take a step back, right? So basically, what is an online platform? There's some key features. The features is they work with the customers and the producer, so online platforms. But they're unique features. One, we call them the two-sided markets. They serve on one side the customers, on the other side are providers. So like the Uber drivers and the customers. And second one, they are usually mobile-based or internet-based. But what is key thing is that they do not own assets or contents, right? So basically, they don't own the car for Didi. They don't own the driver. They are not employees. They're independent contractors. So the examples would be Amazon Marketplace. Similarly, Alibaba's Taobao. So Taobao, that means if you're small merchants, you can place on the online presence through Taobao. You can sell to the customers, right? So therefore, Alibaba's Taobao is an online platform for e-commerce. And Uber and also Meituan. Okay, Meituan have a similar service like Uber, and also they have the meal delivery platform as well. Now, what are the success factors? This is from the market side, from the customers, from the provider side. It's create good value, is convenient, and also that you can get the ride much faster. Even in Hong Kong, I hope that they will allow Uber because you don't need to wait for taxis all the time, right? And also value for the drivers. A lot of time, if you have a car, a spare room, you can start a small business and even small merchants. So in that case, you still have a chance to be successful. So that's from the market perspective. From the platform perspective, it's easy to set up. It's very cheap because you only need to leverage the internet, you leverage the mobile technology, the mobile app, and also with location data, real-time data. So basically, it's low-cost setup because it's asset-light. You don't own assets, you don't own content. Is you leverage the mobile phone, accessible everywhere, and scalable. You can expand from one country to other country. So this is a really fantastic idea. All right. So I was curious about platforms. So actually, I wrote a paper jointly with my colleagues to classify different type of platforms, what they are, how they make money, how they're different, and how do they compete. Because when you're so successful, there are more entrants will enter the market to compete. So basically, we classify into 6 types of platforms. So in real time, of course, I'm not going over to all of them with you, but let's just highlight the easy one for them to illustrate. For e-commerce, Alibaba, they do B2B, but Alibaba also have a Tmall, the B2C. That means that they have a name brand sell to consumers. They also Taobao, which is C2C. So basically, the small merchants can sell to end consumers, right? Similarly, in particular, in the resource sharing, for the B2C, basically, we have the meal delivery platform is B2C. Because this platform, they leverage the restaurants and the drivers to create a platform for the customers, right? So basically, there are other types. So I'm going to skip that. So because they have also in terms of crowdsourcing and crowdfunding. So crowdsourcing, we know the incentive in the US. Crowdfunding could be Kickstarter. So basically, there are many different types of platforms. All right. So the value creation by different platforms, as I mentioned, that they need to create value for the markets. So from the e-commerce perspective, they create a new market. If I were a small merchant, there's no way, if an app developer, how can I sell to the consumers? Well, because like the Apple Store and the Alibaba Taobao, I can actually enter the market, right? So even I have a small quantity, small number of items. And also that's for the customers, they can have access. Because if without the platform, the customers cannot reach the small merchants and vice versa. So therefore, the platform create a new market that would not have existed otherwise without the mechanism, right? So basically, the online platforms is also create an opportunity for small guys to enter the market. Now, then how do they make money? The platforms, this is from the platform. Well, they make money, usually it's free for the consumers, but then of course they take a cut, so they take a commission, right? So this is standard for usually they subsidize one side, but they charge the other side. So on multi-sided markets, is usually they use one side to subsidize the other side. So for Uber, they used to charge 25%. Now they charge even more based on what you pay. So the driver get around 70 or 60% of what the passengers pay. All right. So I found that this for the review papers, this is the review paper I've done with my colleagues. It is a really interesting area because it has so many other things that to explore, including data, including transportation, including smart city initiatives, also including finance, because there's online lending platform, right? So I think there are many things to explore, and that's why I think that's for the young people, I admire you because now you have so many things to explore and so little time, all right? So I want to encourage you to consider that. Now, for the online platform, it's important for the business side and also for the research side. For the business side, it's actually stimulating economic growth and also create a lot of jobs, right? Without this platform, this job do not exist. Therefore, I think that the platform actually create a lot of jobs, but then there is a big argument, which is something we can study as well. Are they creating well-paying jobs for the people or not? Are they become the slaves? Because now in California, we have a proposition in our ballots. We're going to vote on Uber and Lyft, whether we should require them to classify the driver as employees versus independent contractor. If it's employees, then you have to pay for the base salary, and also you have to pay for the healthcare and and other retirement benefits. So that is a big argument. I think that is also worth studying so as well. Now, the good thing is that this online platform is new. So that's why I'm always curious about in terms of how many papers are there in the market, because this is very important for young scholars, because a lot of time you want to, if you are interested to work on new ideas, usually you need to explore what is new, right? So suppose you have an interesting idea, you say, well, is it a new idea? So one way to do that, you can check on Scopus and Google Scholar. Then you see how many papers published in this area. Then you can get a sense about whether this area is saturated or not. So as shown in this figure, there's only, when I started in 2016, there are only 160 papers across all journals. So therefore, I feel, okay, this could be a good area to work on. So that's why I commissioned Saif Ben Jafar and Ming Hu to publish a special issue on online platforms, and it's coming out in MSOM the end of this year. So this is a very exciting area. Okay, so that I hope that would give you a sense of why we study online platforms. Now, then the question is that among all the online platforms, why do we pick the meal delivery platform? That's the next question. Yeah, I'm going to tell you why. All right, so we're going to look at meal delivery platform. Then first of all, let me tell you what it is, because I think in China, everyone uses it. But in the US, it's still not common. In Europe, it's picking up the momentum as well. All right, so because of urbanization, most people live in a city. When they live in a city, they everyone work in the office space. They don't have time to cook. And also the kitchen is very small. If you look at Hong Kong and London, there's no, some flathead does not even have a kitchen, right? So what do? So basically they pull the mobile phone and then all the meals. So they're hungry, the customers, then using the app, and then on the app, the restaurant lists the menu on the app, and then the platform will actually ask the restaurant to cook the meal, and then the driver, and then deliver to the customers, right? Very simple. So basically, this is such a simple idea, but create an industry. So would be like in the US, DoorDash, Uber Eats. In the Netherlands, that's Eats. In China, is huge. It's Ele.me, is now owned by Alibaba and also Meituan. Now, so here it shows that there is a shift in the market, right? In terms of from the restaurants, is basically the platform to do delivery is increasing, and the restaurant to delivery to customers is declining. Why? Because each restaurant, they found it too expensive. They have their own delivery service. So in the case, the platform will enable them to pool all the different drivers to share different restaurants, right? So therefore, it's cheaper for them as well. And also they're using the platform, they can also market to more customers on the mobile phone, right? So, and also even for Uber, the Uber Eats is picking up momentum. In particular, during 2020, because of COVID, is actually the number of deliveries has increased a lot. All right, so that is a important area. All right, okay, so this is why we look at the delivery platform. So now let me get into more details. So then the question, why do we study the meal delivery platform? All right. So basically, that's in China in particular, is growing 15%, and also around the world, you don't see this kind of growth. And in China, it's multi-millions, and also every day it's around 20 million orders, even on Meituan. All right. So, but what I found interesting, it is a three-sided market. Three-sided market in the sense that the platform, they coordinate customers, restaurant, and drivers, right? So basically the platform coordinates three parties, right? So basically they charge the customers, and then charge the customers, and then they take a cut, and then they pay the restaurant, and they pay the drivers, right? So in here is a three-sided. The customers place the order, restaurants, they post the menu, prepare the food, and the driver make the delivery. So in here, I make a note that is the platform determine the quota time. They quote how long do you need to wait for the meal, right? So that is an interesting area. And in the literature research, and I think this paper is one of the first papers that examine three-sided platforms, three-sided markets with data, all right? So because right now we have quite a few number of papers, they study Uber and Didi. The Didi papers, I have two of them. We have used the data collected from China, right? So the three-sided market is a new one. So I was curious and I'd like to learn more. And then I was very fortunate to work with a group of very talented scholars from Hong Kong and from China. All right, so let me tell you in terms of, now we're honing into the more the details about how the platform works, all right? So how does it work? So basically, these are the steps. One, the customer click, you look at the menu will tell you the quota time. When you open the app, they tell you that, oh, if for this restaurant, this is how long you have to wait for the meal, right? Because they know how busy the restaurant is, and also in terms of how many outstanding orders. Then the customer click on the platform to pick the items. Then the platform would dispatch the order to the restaurant and to the drivers, and then driver go to the restaurant, pick up the meal, and then deliver to the customers. So these are the 5 steps, all right? So then depending on the app you use, so basically before the pickup, you contact the service. After the pickup, you contact the drivers, right? So it depends before and after, right? So let me tell you about what happens in the app in China that we were familiar with, all right? So this is, I think that this is by my friend in Shanghai Jiao Tong University. So he was hungry, so he opened the app at, in one case, early 9:30, and then immediately for this meal, the salad, and then they were, wow, it's so cheap, 40 RMB, all right. So basically they said, okay, this is the quota time. So that means you order now or deliver to at 10:20. So this is required time. So the required time is what you expected to deliver. I'll come back to that. We'll call required time. Now, when you click the app, sometimes there are 2 options. You can pre-order the reserve order for the next day. So today is a Monday. They said actually tomorrow. Sorry. This is the pre-order. This is for tomorrow. For pre-order for tomorrow delivery, the customer can specify the time, right? So in the case you have to pay, you pre-order, then they, but usually for the on-demand order, it's the platform set the time. We call required time, all right? So for our studies, we'll focus mainly on the on-demand orders. For the reserve orders, it's easy because it's placed 1 day ahead of time. So the restaurant can actually schedule, right? So in the case, the good idea is that if the customer all can pre-book one day in advance, then the case, the problem is easy to solve because that would become a scheduling problem. You don't need to deal with the dynamics, right? So that is the key. But for right now, we only focus on the on-demand orders. So that means that the customers will specify, the platform will specify the time.
Professor Tang,
Yes.
I'm sorry to disturb you because I have a request from a participant saying that so he wants to see your face. I think the camera.
Oh, okay. Because,
yeah.
Because I have this screen. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Because at this one, the screen slides down. Yeah. Thank you. All right. So let me tell you, I never heard of people request to see my face. Okay. So basically, let me tell you about 2 scenarios, 2 customers, customer A, customer B. All right. Customer A, customer B, they place order at different point in time. But then the quota time, this is the quota time. The platform specifies the time, all right? So it's this scenario, they both at the same time, all right? Then what they do based on what we discussed with Ele.me and also Meituan and also Grab in Singapore, they do not dispatch the order immediately, all right? So what they do is that they will actually wait for a little while before they dispatch the restaurant. Why? Because they want to do the pooling, because the pooling will enable them to maybe schedule the drivers better and also the restaurants better, right? Then they dispatch, then the platform assign drivers to pick up the restaurant. So once the driver at the restaurant, sometimes they may have to wait because the restaurant is still cooking, because they also need to serve customers who are dining in addition to pick up. So this is only one platform. They could have different platforms, Deliveroo and Uber Eats and Ele.me. There's so many of them, right? So in the case, the restaurant is busy for serving different orders. And sometimes they have to wait. And then the driver deliver the meals to the customers. Sometimes, especially in China, sometimes there's traffic jam. We know that. Sometimes they cannot find the place. I tell you later, finding a residence home in China is not easy, all right? For some reasons, I will come back to that. And then in this particular scenario, the customer A is early, so he's happy. This one is late, then is unhappy, right? So this is late. Then the question, we are wondering, what happened to these customers? For the early delivery, for the late delivery, would they continue to use the service or not? That's what one want to study, all right? So we are curious about early versus late. Then we says, well, first, what is the behavior in the future? Will they continue to use the service more often or less? Okay, what is that? Second, what are the key factors? What are the key factors will affect the delivery performance? If the platform knows, they may be able to maybe increase capacity, maybe change different things such that they can deliver the meals better, more on time, right? And also, this is more related to the OR side. Then the question is if they have to assign orders to drivers, is there any way for them to improve the assignment policy, to assign order to driver such that they can improve future customers? Now, why do they care about the future orders? It's because all these are startups. Because right now, none of the platforms are making money. It's not about making money anymore. It's a new era. It's about getting market share, right? Like Uber, like Didi, even Uber and Didi never make a penny. It doesn't matter. They just want to compete for customers. Same thing about Grab, right? So that is the new era. So that's why we study this, all right? So let me tell you about what we're going to study. So what we're going to study is we have going to look at three things. How would the new delivery performance affect future orders, and which factor affect delivery performance, and how to assign orders, right? So let me start with the data description. The data we first collected is from Hangzhou, okay? We have data for 2 months. We have 1,600 restaurants, over 500 drivers, and 66,000 customers. So all together, we have 300,000 transactions. So we want to study the behavior of the future orders. Then, of course, when you submit a journal, of course, the reviewer always want more, right? Then they say, oh, you need more data, right? So because of COVID, we cannot get more data. Then also we talked with Grab in Singapore, and we took a few months. Getting data from companies is not that easy. Then later on, we are getting close to get the data. They said, oh, they signed the MOU with Singapore University, National University of Singapore. Then they said, oh, we had to get the data from another department. So it take a long time. So then we were not successful. So finally, we're lucky to get the data from Shanghai, from the Shanghai city, with the same time frame, because they want to replicate the analysis to see whether it's consistent or not. Because right now for empirical work, they also want to push for replicability. That means the data, the analysis, the result is not one-off. It's also hold for other type of data as well. So that's what we did. Now, let me show you some of the description data, and then before I show you the analysis, all right? First, this one's easy. The number of orders received different hours. So we know that the noon hours are peak and evening hours. The second one is we look at in terms of the quota time, all right? This is the quota time the platform quoted. And this is the histogram. So then on average, the median is 50 minutes, okay? So in this case, these are what I call the long orders. These are the short orders, okay? Long orders may be because you live far away, the restaurant is also far away, so therefore will be long orders, right? So suppose in Hong Kong Island, you want something from Saikong from the seafood, then of course you will wait for a couple of hours, right? If you're nearby, it will be faster. So there are long order and short orders. So then the question is that this data, this number is also consistent with the other platforms they announced, right? So then of course, given in a community, immediately respond, do they game the system? That means that does the platform quoted the time different from the estimated time? So based on the data, the answer is no, okay? So actually, they quoted exactly what is the estimated time. The quoted time is estimated. Here's why. We talk with the delivery platform. If you look at the actual one, it's actually most of the time is 0, right? So the on-time delivery. Well, if you look at this, we call this time gap. The time gap, that means this is late, this order, these are early. If this is early versus late, all right? So on time delivery and late is roughly around 50%, right? So that means the estimated time is quite accurate. So we talk with the platform and say, well, why don't you do hedging? So that means that you may quote it maybe earlier, maybe shorter. Then they said that they don't do that. Here's why. If they estimate half an hour, but then they quote maybe 50 minutes, then the case, that means that there is a higher chance that the order will be late. You will be unhappy because you say, oh, it's actually, I quoted 50 minutes, but I estimate the time is 30 minutes. Then the case, the customer will be unhappy because it's highly likely to be late. If I quoted too long, suppose 30 minutes, then I say, well, I play safe. Maybe I quote 45 minutes. Then Yong Hong will be unhappy because you say 45 minutes and they say, well, I don't even want to order from you. I can order from other platform, right? So therefore, they also need to compete for the order as well. So is quoted too short, they will disappoint the customers, then they lose a customer in the future. If they quoted too long, then in the case, you don't even order to begin with. So therefore, they said they may as well quote according to the required time, all right? So therefore, that's why they generate 50% time is early, 50% late, right? So that is a good thing. Now, so we have other data besides the quoted time and the time gap. Time gap is if it's positive, then it's late. It's negative, that's early, all right? So just try to, it's the delivery time and the quoted time. So we have duration. Duration is the time from this order to the next order. So because we want to capture how often do you repeat the order from the same platform, not the same restaurant. Because on the platform, they serve multiple restaurants for you to choose from. So basically from the platform's perspective, they don't care which restaurant you order from. They only care you continue to order on the platform, all right? So that is the duration, the time elapsed between one order to the next. Location, in this case, we're very fortunate. We know the location of the restaurant and also with the customer, right? So we know the exact address. So in that case, actually, it took them, my team, not me, I don't know how to do that. They convert all the address to the longitudinal and also the exact location, the coordinates, and then to map out the distance, all right? So that is, but we do not have the real-time data for the drivers. We do not have the, because this is more the static data, not the real-time data. We don't have, all right? So, but we do have latitude and longitudes of the address of the restaurants and the customers. Then for each driver, we also know the following. We do not know in terms of the age and the gender, but we do know how long they work at this platform, experience and local knowledge. And I'll explain what the local knowledge means, all right? So we do not have the graphic data in terms of demographic data, in terms of gender, age, and whatnot, but based on the report on the press, they are fairly homogeneous. For example, most of the drivers are male and the age group is around 30s to 40s, and the education, this is typical in Asia. These are not the most highly educated individuals. They usually do not have university degrees. All right. So also we have other information. in terms of the price for each order, because that would determine the quantity and also congestions. Congestions level in Hangzhou is there's a scale, not the speed. Is from 1 to 10. 10 is extremely congested, so they have a scale for that. And temperature, and we do have the time for the driver waiting at the restaurant, and then custom ID and whatnot. So basically, we control for the hour of the day and whether it's a holiday or not. So we have all this information, all right? So here's the key summary statistics. Just highlight some of them. The duration, that means usually on mean, that means every 3 days on average, the customer will place an order on the platform again. So on average, the orders are early, by 1.21 minutes. Waiting time 53 minutes. So this is similar to what we quoted in terms of medians 50 minutes. Now this one is the customer, the driver has to wait at the restaurant. Then we know the price of each order, number of restaurants, the distance between the restaurant and the customers. So on average, it's around 1.6 kilometers, which is around 1 mile. Congestion level 2.6, not too bad. Temperature is very hot, or usually, and the driver experience is around 17 days. That means on average, they work at the platform only 17 days, because in China, the economy is changing very rapidly, and also turnover rate is also quite high. So in that case, they do not work at the rest for the platform for a long time. Now, local knowledge, this is what I want to explain. This is more relevant to China. In China, it's interesting because the address, finding a building, finding a block, it's not easy. I don't know why. Even every time I bring students to China, they gave me the address. We could never find it. So we had to call them on WeChat. It's okay. You look at this building, you look at that, you turn at this lane, you turn over there. So basically, that it's not easy to find. So we quoted this, whether the drivers is equal to 1, if he or she has visited the proximity before. That means that they know where to go once they enter the building, all right? So basically that is what to do. So in that case, on average, 50% of the time, they have, the driver has been to that location before. 50% of the time they have not, all right? So that is the measure of the local knowledge, right? So later on, these two will play a role, all right? So then the question, the game plan, how do we analyze this data? Now, before we have data, before we don't have data, we do theoretical model. But now with data, I also want to make a point. We should do some empirical work to do descriptive before we do prescriptive. So we need to understand the data first, all right? So in this case, we're going to study the meal delivery performance on future orders. That means that we want to study how often do you order after you experience early or late, right? Now, in this case, we use survival analysis. Now, why do we do that, all right? Now, survival analysis is a branch of biostatistics. In biology, in survival statistics, is more usually when you deal with truncated or sensor data. So in this particular case, we do have truncated sensor data because we only 2 months data. We don't know. Suppose you order just 2 days before the deadline, the truncation, the deadline. We don't know where you order the next time or not, right? So this is similar to when you do drugs experiment on cancer patients. So suppose you prescribe a drug to the patients and the patient not die of cancer, die of a car accident. Then say, oh, how long would he have lived had he not died from the accident, right? It's truncated. So therefore, there's a branch of survival analysis to estimate, had he not died from the motorcycle accidents, had he continued using this treatment on the drugs, how long would he have lived, right? So that is what we do. So that means that had we not stopped the clock after 2 months, how likely will he continue to order on the platform? So that is survival analysis. So how do we do that? So in the survival analysis, usually the measures is the hazard rate. Hazard rate is in reliability theory, I think in system engineering to study that, is a probability that the customer place order at time t, all right? So that is the survival rate. Then there are two standard methods. The first one is known as the Cox proportional hazard model. But the Cox model is look at the hazard rate as a base rate. This is base times the covariance model. But the problem, this base rate is time dependent, but all these are time independent. So this will not work in our model because the coefficients depend on the time variance, because could be the time of the day, could be depend on whether you have good experience for this particular order versus the next order. So therefore, we use the alien additive model, which is what we have. That means that the coefficients, they are time dependent, depending on which particular order you use, all right? So we want to do that. So how do we do that? Is basically we use a duration, the time between your order to the next order. So we have 1 and 0. So basically we plug in here 1 and 0, and then it's a turn out that you can run this additive model as if it's a regression model. Once you line up all the numbers, then you can do it that way, all right? So here we have looked at the time gap, which is early versus late. And also we have the dummy, whether it's a long order or short order. Long order are those orders I quoted more than 50 minutes, all right? So that is, if we have control variables would be the temperature, congestions, and whatnot. So we do this. So let us do this and then show you the results, all right? We run this. So this is the results. So the model is the additive model with the time gap. We have the long versus short order. And then we have the interaction factor. I explain. These are control factors. All right. So this is what we find. So here, what does it mean? All right. So you look at the coefficient. This means the time gap. That means that is if you're late, then in the case, the future order, the likelihood will go down, right? So that means you are less loyal to me. Second one, if it's a long order, you're also less likely to be loyal to me. So that means shorter orders, people are more loyal. Long orders are not loyal. That makes sense. For example, if your home orders something from Saigon, so that means that he said, well, I only like this because I waited for 1.5 hours because I like the seafood. I like to try it out. But next time it's, well, I want something else. So in that case, they're not that loyal to platform, all right? The third one is that if you say it's the long orders, this is equal to 1, right? If the long orders, actually the impact about the time gap is lessened. Why? You look at this one, if your time gap, you go down a lot, but this one, you bump up a little bit. So that means that for the long orders, the impact on being late is lessened. So that means that this will give you some idea. Maybe for short orders, people are very urgent. They're very hungry. If they're late, they're more angry. So in that case, they're less likely. So therefore, for the short orders, the impact is bigger. They go further down, all right? So here is for the long orders, what we learn is that the long orders, if they deliver late, they're not that sensitive. Why? Because your home is planned to wait for 45 minutes. Okay, just 46, 47, no big deal. If he was quoted the time for 50 minutes, every minute will be more sensitive. Yeah, that's what we find. Now, so this seems reasonable, but then we have a problem. With the potential problem, this is the usual suspect, and it's called endogeneity issues. Why? Because here there's an error, the noise. the noise could be correlated with some of the factors we use here. So for example, there's something we don't observe, we don't have. Promotion, the restaurants, maybe new menus. Let's say, suppose there's some promotion here, we don't observe, but the promotion could affect the time gap. Because when the promotion is on, in the case, the restaurant will be busier. When they're busier, then it may be more delay, right? But we don't observe, we don't know, right? Then this is the point that you have a endogeneity issue. We want to make sure that this is not create a bias result. We want this is a bias, right? So how do we do that? So there's one approach, it's called instrumental variables in econometrics. So that means that you need to pick a what we call IV in instrumental variables. The instrumental variables need to be correlated with the time gap, but not correlated. We don't know independent or not. With the future orders. So we pick driver's experience and local knowledge. Here's why. For the driver's knowledge and experience, it should have no effect on the customer's future orders, because when you place an order, you don't know which driver will be assigned to your order, right? So in that case, has no bearing. And we found that the coefficient, the correlation is very low, right? But these two are more likely to affect the time gap, because the driver's experience, how long they work with the platform, and whether they have visited the proximity of the customer's location, it could affect whether he's early or late, right? So we use this, then how do we do that, all right? So we use this IV. To do that, we have to reverse order. We call it the two-stage regression model. So to do that is we flip it. So first, we regress the time gap using the experience and local knowledge and all the other factors, right? We run the regression first. Once the regression, then we can do the estimate. And use the estimate to plug in the second regression model. Then the case, this one is already embedded. So in this particular case, once you absorbed the local knowledge experience, now this error will be less likely to be correlated with the fitted time gap, because the correlations are already captured here, right? So that is what the two-stage regression model tried to do, right? So that means I want to use the first step to absorb the relationship first. Once I absorb the relationship, I use the fit value to regress to reduce the correlation between the error and the covariates, all right? So that's what we do. And then we do this, I'm going to show you the results. So the first stage, we're using these two IV, and this is the results. Well, in this case, the time gap is that it does matter. If the driver has longer experience, also they have a local area knowledge, it will reduce the time gap. That means the delivery time will be shorter. They will be more on time. Second is also if there's a long order, it will reduce even longer, right? And also here we capture the distance and the price, and also we capture how long the waiting time at the restaurant. The driver may need to wait, so that is also impacted the time gap, right? So that will increase the time gap. That means we late, and also the mean order. That means how busy the restaurant is, and also that how variable. This is a coefficient variation of the restaurant orders they receive during the day. So if the restaurant is very busy, they receive a lot of orders and also fluctuate a lot. This will also increase the time gap. That means we increase the delivery time, all right? But then on the other hand, the experience and local knowledge would decrease the delivery time, right? So at least we know a little bit. Now we use this model, we then plug in all the data, we use the fit value. Then when you use the fit value, then we do the survival analysis again. So now we use the fit value to do again. Then this is the second stage coefficient. Then as you notice that the coefficient consistent with our early model, right? So again, this means that is if you are late, will affect your order. If you are long orders, this is long orders, this would also affect you because if the further longer, more disloyal. And also for the interaction factors, this will lessen the effect, right? So this is consistent with our results earlier. Then we also split the data into two halves. One, we only focus on those early deliveries and the late delivery. We split the data set in two halves and we run the two-stage model and we find the consistent results, all right? So this is more satisfying. And then we also use the Shanghai data in a data set, we actually discover the same effect, all right? So basically, what we learn is the following. Time gap matters, whether you're early or late, does matter about your the future orders of the customers. Late delivery versus early. Late delivery, the coefficient is much higher. Early deliver, the impact is smaller. So that means that is late, you get penalized more because the decrease bigger. And early, it only help you a little bit, all right? And also in terms of long orders, they also affect your orders negatively, but also that long orders and they affect this is less because a little bump up. All right, so this is consistent what we learned earlier. All right, good. So now we have the machinery to estimate. We can estimate the future orders. So now we can use the model to estimate future orders, right? So then what do we do with it? All right. So now we know how to do that. All right. So we repeated the same analysis in Shanghai, and also we do the same analysis for the reserve orders, and then is they're all good. So now we know how to estimate this, the future orders. Then we try to capitalize on this knowledge to do something that could be useful. All right. So let me move on. So how do we do that? We develop a order assignment policy. Now, there is some shortcoming of these studies. So first declare, because we do not have the real-time data, location data for the drivers. We do not have. So therefore, we have to do a simulation, right? Because we do not have, right? So what do? We do the following. One, we select 100 orders randomly from the historical data. We select based on all the orders we receive, we select 150 randomly for each instance. We know the location of the customer and restaurant for each pair. Second, we also select randomly from the 100 orders about the driver location. That means that we select 150 orders randomly at different orders from this one. Okay, these are two different orders, such that we assume that the driver just finished delivering the meal in those orders, and they are going to available to pick up other orders, right? So this is what we try to use to simulate, assume that they just finished delivering those orders. So in this case, we have 150 orders here. This is 100, we'll use it for orders. This 150 location of drivers, okay? So then the question, how do you match the orders with this 150 location for each instance? So, but we do 1,000 instances, all right? So then we can, now we also use the machinery to estimate the delivery time, because now we have the delivery model for the time gap. Remember the first regression model, we can estimate the delivery time, and also we can also estimate the future orders using the survivor analysis, right? So we have two scenarios. The first scenarios is we do not use the driver's characteristics in terms of experience and local knowledge. and the k equals 1 we use, right? So that means that this one we only use the average value. This you use individual driver value, all right? Then we can estimate. So we use the first regression model to estimate the time gap. We can estimate the delivery time. The second one, we can use the survival analysis, the second regression model, to estimate the number of orders we receive, all right? So then what do? We have the assignment constraint, which is assigning orders to driver's location, right? So that's easy. Now, then for this one, we have two scenarios mentioned before, all right? Then we have we have assignment constraint. But then we consider three objective functions. The first one is we estimate the total delivery time, all right? Now, this is the case where the platforms we have spoken with, they don't know how to estimate the future orders. So in this case, this is the only thing they can estimate, right? The second one is to minimize the total delay. Ri is a quota time, right? So this is the delivery time. So this, in this case, this would be the lateness in total delay based on your order assignment, right? The third one is to measure maximize the future orders. If you assign that driver to this particular order, so this is, we use the regression model from the survival analysis to estimate if this is early versus late using the model earlier, and then with the assignment constraint. Then we solve this, this model in Cplex, and then we run 1,000 instances. For each instances, we have 150 orders with 150 drivers. Then here's the final result associated with these three different formulations, all right? So this is the first objective is minimize total delivery time. This is minimize total delay. The third one is maximize future orders, all right? So then we have to look at what does it mean, all right? The blue one is the delivery time. So in this particular case, if you look at using the delivery time, is actually the third one is also look pretty good. That means using this one. Delay, because the second objective function, they have the minimizing delay, they perform it better. So in that case, this one is the winning. The third one is a future order increase. Well, obviously, because I use this as objective function, so this is actually better, right? That is expected, right? Now, but this one cannot be done without using the empirical method. This is more data-driven because most platforms, they do not know how to estimate the future orders, right? So we use the historical data to estimate that. So in the case, what we learn is the following. If we take the driver's characteristics in terms of the experience, in terms of the local knowledge, it will perform better. That means k equals 1. That means we take that into consideration. It's better than not taking it. And also this objective function is actually more consistent with what the platform needs as startups, because they need to have this kind of capabilities such that they would be able to grow the business. And also that in terms of, this is also good use of data, using so that you can do the descriptive analysis to see how the driver's knowledge can affect the future orders. And then we'll capitalize on this knowledge and try to do a better job to help the platforms to grow the business. All right, so just to summarize, so basically the paper again is located here. We will study a three-sided markets with customers, restaurant, and drivers. Then we try to understand early versus late deliveries. Then we say that late are bad, but early are good, but a little bit. But then what we find is that knowledge does matter. So that means that it's good. That means the experience and knowledge does matter. So that means in Hong Kong, you still need to respect the older senior colleagues because they have the experience and also the local area knowledge. Like Yong Hong is a local Hong Konger, then he has the local knowledge. It doesn't matter, all right? So also in terms of all the assignment policies is actually in order to grow, actually you need to do some kind of data analytics to understand how you operate your platform, how you assign drivers, make a difference. Now, there are a lot of things we didn't do. Also, we didn't know how to do. First one is how do you do incentive mechanism, right? Now this one with the data, then the question is how do you discourage late deliveries? Now, we found that it's very typical Chinese platforms. They only penalty, there's no carrot, there's no reward for early. They only penalize you if you're late. So in China, there's some incidents that the drivers rush and they actually create accident. So that needs to be examined again. Second one is that for the restaurant. For the restaurant right now, the platform cannot control the restaurant because they have their own customer orders. They also order from other platforms. Then the question is, how can the platform help the restaurants to reduce the delay? Because the drivers are waiting at the restaurant, right? And the third one is that what happens if the platform encourage customers to place order 1 day ahead? Just like in the mooncakes, we just last week was the Mid-Autumn Festival. I studied a paper, actually I have in the paper. Why do the bakery always offer 20% discount to buy the coupons, right? This happens in Hong Kong every year and also in China. Why? Because you reserve orders, they don't have to rush orders. They collect the money upfront. So they don't need to predict, right? So they can manage operations much better. So we show that actually in Hong Kong and in China, the 20% discount is a good idea. So I talked with the executive of Maxims in Hong Kong long time ago. Then I said, hey, is 20% too much or too little? Right? So I said, can you share some data? We can do some experiment, we can help you. I said, Professor Tang, thank you very much. We're not interested. Then I said, why? He said that our margin is so high. It's not important. Okay, yes, it's true. The mooncake, the margin is so high, so expensive. Who can afford it? But anyway, so then said they use it as a promotion. They said, oh, this is second order effect. So it said 20% sounds good because butter is sounds good. That's what they want to do. So I was just curious: is it really 20% too much, too little, and maybe to get time dependent discount, right? But they're not interested. All right, anyway, so this is what I have. So I'm going to stop the share screen and then we can take some questions. You see if I know how to do that.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Tang. So I think now we have the Q&A section. Professor Tang will be happy to answer question. So on Zoom, so there is a Q&A function. So I think it's at the bottom. So you will see Q&A, and then you open the box, and then you can type your question. We would appreciate it if you can put down your name, affiliation, and position, and then you put down the questions, and then so we will see in the Q&A box, and then Professor Tang will see the question and then read your question, and then answer your question. He will first answer the clarifying question, and then so if you have some more in deep question, then you may ask also in the Q&A section.
Okay, I have a question coming in from Leonardo. from Hong Kong U. Thank you very much. The question is that would the result also apply to case in the US? I think so, because this data is not directly related to China, but the data is based on China, and most of the characteristics are still the same, except that the address would be easier to identify. But in terms of experience, it's also important, right? So because experience, they know how to take shortcuts, and also in case of traffic jam, and also they know how to find the restaurants. So the experience does matter. So in that case, the result can be replicable in the US as well. But the challenge is getting data. Right now, I would say that I envy my friends in Hong Kong and China, because Chinese startups, particularly startups, they're more willing to share the data. And willing to share the data is very beneficial. So for example, I'm working on a project with Tencent through Hong Kong University. So we're actually studying online games. Now, this kind of data is impossible to acquire. That's why the open data competition with JD, with Alibaba, with Hire, I can only get the data from China, but not in the US, because in the US, look, we cannot even do contact tracing for COVID. What are you talking about? So in the case, we cannot, really difficult to do data. That's why if you want to do big data analysis, Hong Kong and China is a gold mine. Thank you.
Okay.
Now, while we're waiting for questions, maybe I can also say a few words about online platforms while we're waiting. So basically, that is, besides the delivery platforms, we can also have other platforms that's worth studying. So for example, crowdsourcing in terms of competition, and also crowd funding. We have other questions coming in. Mustafa is a good friend of mine. Yes, Mustafa Chari. So this is the question. I had to answer live. All right. So I have the technical question in the optimization. The Xij is assignment variables, and the Ri is the required time. All right. So okay, the required time is for that particular order. All right. So do you think it makes sense of promised delivery time? Yes, the required time is the same as the promised delivery time in the formulation. So the Ri is generated from the orders, because when we pick the random orders, the 150, we already know the customer locations and the restaurant location, and also the required time. That is from the historical data, right? So that is not a problem. And Mustafa is from the MIT Zaragoza in Spain. Now, besides we talk about crowdsourcing platform, crowdfunding platform, there are also very interesting idea that I have, and I have not been able to do a good job. This is related to online dating, right? Because now in Hong Kong and China, it's becoming more common now. Everyone's so busy. How do you time, even COVID, how do you find time to find a boyfriend, a girlfriend on the streets, right? So you do online, right? Then the question, how do you do it online? How does the platform charge the money for the membership, for marriage or for dating, right? So with the question is that for the dating platform, the problem is different. The dating platform, I don't want you to be loyal. I don't want you to stay on the platform for too long. Unlike the meal delivery platform, it's a reverse problem. Why? If you stay on the platform for too long, that means that either the platform is no good, you cannot find a match, you cannot find a wife, you cannot find a husband, or you're no good. Either way, right? So I want you to leave because I need fresh blood onto the platform to attract new members, right? So basically, for the online dating platforms, I've been trying to study how can the platform attract new members to join and old members to leave. That means if you cannot find a wife within a few months, maybe it's the platform, maybe it's you. I don't want you to stay on. Then the question, how do we do that, right? So I try to get some data, but it's difficult to do. So this is open research question. It's online data platform, and we still don't have work on that.
Yeah, I think we have some more questions in the Q&A box. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think participants were typing. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the next one is Zhou Zihan. Okay, a PhD student from Olin School from WashU. Is it okay to ignore the customer characteristics? Well, that's a good question. But we don't know the customer's characteristics. We only know the behavior when they order, when they not order, where they live. So in that case, we do not have. We don't know the gender, the age, education level. We don't have the demographics data. And also that's they may be, and also that maybe when track what type of food they like. But the issue is that the platform has multiple restaurants. So therefore, it's not a problem. But I think that in terms of demographics, we do not have. So that is a shortcoming. Good point. So the next one is Leonardo. How is meal delivery different from ride sharing? Oh, this question, I think that is, I explained earlier. For the ride sharing platform, it's a two-sided market. It's driver and passengers. But this one is a three-sided market. The customers, the restaurant, and the drivers. Then the question is that we want to understand whether this one is to coordinate three parties, whether it will affect the delivery, the performance or not. So it is quite different. Next question. Lina Lu, I don't know where she's from, but anyway, she said that why do I use 15 minutes to classify as long orders versus short orders? Here's why. Because when we show you the required time, the media is 15 minutes. So therefore, the required time, the quoted time 15 minutes is the one I quote the longer is called the long orders. The one I quote the short is short orders. So we want to make the classification. Next one, Wang Yijia is a PhD student from IMSE. I think that is from Hong Kong U, yeah, and supervised by Yong Hong. All right. The question is that I focus on the impact of future orders for the same customers. Yes, the impact of delaying other orders during the same period is also important. Oh, I guess that what you're saying that is, if I focus on the future orders of the same customers, then for the new customers, they have not started yet. Do I give them priority or not, right? Here is actually, we do not differentiate between new customers versus old customers. We don't have the priority. That's a good point. Maybe we should have a priority. That means if you are a preferred customers or VIP, we give you the different weight. So that one we did not consider in the objective function, right? If you look at our objective function, we just maximize the future orders for all customers with the same weight. So maybe for the existing customers, I give you one weight. For the new customer, I give them different weight, right? But then the question, how do you assign the weight, right? So we did not do that, but that is can be estimated. So I think that if more data, then we can see that is whether the customers will be stay loyal once they're on the platform, or should we attract the new customers? That maybe we can attract them differently. That's a good question, but this our model can address that. It will assign different weight. Yeah. Next one is Liu Xiaojin from VCU. How do platforms improve the well-being of the delivery drivers? Do they have strategy, policy implement right now? All right. So this is a good question. I think right now there are press in China to figure how to do that. Right now, the platforms do not have regulations, and the government do not have regulations. And actually, sometimes some of the delivery platforms drivers cause accidents. Then the question, how do we deal with that? That is a big problem. We don't know. So maybe the Hong Kong the department to look into transportation. Then the question is there any other way? Hey, there are other ways, because in China nowadays, in some areas using drone delivery, that could be one way. That would be safer, hopefully. We don't know yet. Then the other one may be some other mechanism, maybe autonomous vehicles in the future, right? So there are different locker box to go along with the route. I do not know, right? So that one we do not know, and China is looking into that. Next one, from Mustafa again. Do you think the platforms could have the same segmentation, the different service level to different customers? I mentioned about the long orders are less hungry and more patient, but they could be more valuable, all right? So maybe better to prioritize those orders. Then the question is, do they make a difference, all right? Good question. I think that we do not have enough data to track enough of that, because then we can actually track, maybe we can separate the sample. Actually, we did. For the long orders, we can actually estimate the degree of loyalty versus short orders. But there's a problem. For the same customer, some orders are long, some orders are short. For example, today, Yonghong is hungry, he just wants a sandwich, so it's only 50 minutes. Tomorrow, he's less hungry, maybe I visit, he wants to treat me seafood. Then he said, well, let's order from Saigon, right? So in the case, the same customers get switch back and forth from long orders, short orders. So it's difficult to tell how valuable they are. So you are asking question, the value of each customer, right? So I think that's a good question. For to measure the value of different customers, we need a longer period of time of data to track the individual customers. Then we can classify them based on demographics, based on location. Because if you live in Hong Kong, you live in mid-hill level, it's difficult to find, because those luxury places difficult to find, versus you live in on top of MTR station, it's easy to find, right? So in that case, it really depends, right? So I think that if we look into more granular data over a period of time, we may be able to classify customers in a different way. But if the data we have right now, each customer owns 2 months data, each customer, they have long order and short orders. It's difficult to differentiate them, yeah? So therefore, our data set cannot do that, but also that is beyond the scope of the current study, because we are not focusing on each individual classification of the segmentations, all right? Hopefully that will answer your questions. Next one is Yang Yimo, Hong Kong U students. When I order meals online, I usually do not care about the promised delivery time. I want it to be as soon as possible, right? Rather than the promised delivery time. How do you know if it's early or not? All right. Now, this one is to be easy. In that case, I just remove the requirement time, right? Now, but that is not the case, because in China, maybe you is a special case. In China, actually, a lot of time now something they're thinking about if the promised time versus the late versus early. Sometimes some platform, they want to give the customers a discount or coupons for future orders if they're late, right? So that means that there's a promise in terms of customer satisfaction. You are the special case that you don't care about the quota time, but customers, they do look at the quota time. That's why when you open the app, that is for each restaurant, they tell you what time the meals will be available to quote, right? So, but in our analysis, we can do the same thing. What we do is that we just don't measure the time gap. We just measure the actual delivery time. We just don't use the required time. Yeah, so that's not a problem, all right? Next one. Chen Jian, can you give more explanation why the third strategy is the best one? Is it possible that has to combine most of the factors and all this from Nanjing? Okay, thank you for the question. I think that is we use the third objective function because that is the focus is on maximizing future orders. We try to maximize future orders to ensure the platform continue to grow, right? So if this is the intention, that is the objective function that is consistent with the intent, right? So that's one. It's not about what is the best, but because given this is the goal, this is the right objective function. So let me put it this way. It's not the best. It's the most appropriate objective function, right? So I think that is what I try to say, right? So it's a consistency. Okay, so I think this is the last question, and I know that its time is up.
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much, Professor Tang, for giving us a very interesting and also insightful seminar. So may I join me? Thank you, big thank you to Professor Tang.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and also answer our questions. May I now invite Professor George Huang, our department head, to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Yonghong. And first of all, I'd like to thank Professor Christopher Tang for the wonderful talk. I think you not only talk about your research, but also demonstrate how we can write high quality journal papers from everyday life. And secondly, I'd like to thank the audience.
We're still struggling.
What? It's a good example to the young researchers how to produce high quality journal papers. And secondly, I'd like to thank all the audience to join the seminar and ask interesting questions. And thirdly, I'd like to thank the dean, our dean, Professor Christopher Chow, for the encouragement and the support from the very beginning to throughout the process. And finally, I'd like to thank the organizing committee. We have 6 young colleagues in the department, assistant professors, and they brainstormed what we can do during this pandemic period, and they come up with this wonderful idea. And they take the initiatives with the support of the dean and the departments. And this is the first inaugural seminar in the series. And the next seminar will be given, I think, by Professor Stephen Minna from University of Munich. And he's the editor-in-chief of RDPE. And normally, the seminar is given in the second week of a month, every month, okay? Hopefully Wednesday, if possible, okay? So looking forward to see you again in the next seminar. Yonghong, back to you.
Thank you very much, Professor Tang, our dean, Professor Chow, and our department head, Professor Huang. So just some updates. So if you are interested in our series, so please feel free to go to our website. And again, so as Professor Huang mentioned, so we will have more world-leading scholars to share with us their latest research findings. So the next speaker will be Professor Stephen Miner. So he also attended this seminar. So we said hello to them. So it would be on November 4th, the same time. So thanks the audience, especially those in Australia and Asia. So it's a late evening. So, but I hope that you enjoyed the seminar very much. Thank you to all. So may I now close the seminar? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night and good day, good afternoon. Yeah, thank you. Thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.